When the men in the tents heard about it, they were astonished at what had happened. Panic-stricken, they didn't wait for each other but rushed out and fled across the plain and through the hill country on any available road or path. Those who were camped in the hills around Bethulia also fled. Then all the Israelite soldiers charged after them. Uzziah sent messengers to 𝗕𝗶𝗯𝗹𝗶, and all the territory of Israel to tell what had happened and to urge everyone to pursue and destroy the enemy. When the Israelites heard it, they joined together to fight the enemy, cutting them down all the way to 𝗕𝗶𝗯𝗹𝗲. Those in Jerusalem and in all the hill country also came, for they were told what had happened in the enemy camp. The men of Gilead and Galilee repeatedly attacked the enemy from the flank and slaughtered them, pursuing them even to the borders of Damascus. The people of Bethulia plundered the Assyrian camp and carried off great riches. And when the other Israelites returned from the slaughter, they took what remained. There was such a huge amount of plunder that even the villages and towns in the hill country and in the plain received much of it. Then Joachim the high priest and the high council of the Israelites in Jerusalem came to see the good things that the Lord had done for Israel. They also wanted to see Judith and congratulate her. When they met her, they all blessed her and said to her, "You are the glory of Jerusalem. All Israel boasts about you. You are the great pride of our nation. You have done all this with your own hand. You have done a great thing for Israel, and God is well pleased with it. May the Almighty Lord bless you forever." And all the people said, "Amen." The people plundered the Assyrian camp for 30 days. They gave Holofernes' tent and all his silver dinnerware, his beds, his bowls, and his furniture to Judith. She loaded her mules, hitched up her carts, and piled up all the plunder. All the women of Israel hurried to see her and bless her. They danced in her honor, and Judith gave them ivy-covered wands. Then the women crowned themselves with olive wreaths. Judith led all the women in a dance procession, and the men of Israel followed, carrying their weapons, wearing garlands, and singing hymns. With all Israel surrounding her, Judith sang a song of thanksgiving. And all the people joined in her song of praise. This is Judith's song. Sing to my God with tambourines. Sing to my Lord with cymbals. Lift up to him a psalm of praise. Exalt him and call upon his name. For the Lord is a God who crushes warfare. He set up his camp in the midst of his people. He rescued me from the hands of my oppressors. Assyria came down from the mountains of the north. They came with many thousands of warriors. Their soldiers filled the valleys. Their horsemen covered the hills. They boasted that they would set my land on fire, kill my young men with the sword, throw my infants to the ground, seize my children as prizes of war, and take my virgins as captives. But the Lord Almighty has defeated them by the hand of a woman. Their mighty leader was not struck down by young men, nor did the sons of the Titans bring him down, nor did tall giants put him away. It was Judith, daughter of Merari, who disarmed him with her beauty. She put away her widow's clothing to rescue the oppressed in Israel. She put on sweet perfume and fastened her hair with a tiara. She put on a linen gown to seduce him, and a glimpse of her sandal aroused him. Her beauty captivated his soul, but the sword severed his neck. The Persians trembled at her boldness. The Medes were stunned by her daring. Then my oppressed people shouted a war cry. My weak people cried out, and the enemy trembled. They raised their voices, and the enemy turned back. Sons of slave girls pierced the enemy and wounded them like deserters. They perished before the army of my Lord. I will sing a new song to my God. O Lord, you are great and glorious, wonderfully strong, invincible. May all your creatures serve you, for when you spoke, they came into being. You sent your breath, and it formed them. No one can resist your voice. The mountains and oceans will shake in your presence, and rocks will melt like wax before you. But to those who fear you, you show mercy. Sweet-smelling sacrifices are a small thing to you. The fat of whole burnt offerings means little to you. But those who fear the Lord are great forever. Destruction is certain for the nations that rise up against my people. The Lord Almighty will punish them in the day of judgment. He will send fire and worms into their flesh, and they will cry in pain forever. Eventually the entire group arrived at Jerusalem, where they worshipped God. As soon as the people were purified, they offered burnt offerings, free-will offerings, and gifts. Judith dedicated to God all the possessions of Holofernes she had been given, and she gave the canopy from his sleeping quarters as an offering to fulfill a vow. For 3 months the people enjoyed the festivities in Jerusalem before the temple. And Judith was with them the whole time. After these events, the people all went home. Judith returned to Bethulia and lived on her estate, and she was esteemed throughout the country for the rest of her life. Many men wanted to marry her, but she never gave herself to another man after the death of her husband, Manasseh. She became more and more famous through the years. She grew old in her husband's house, reaching the age of 105. She set her maid free, and then she died in Bethulia. She was buried in a cave beside her husband, Manasseh, and all Israel mourned for 7 days. Before she died, she distributed her property to all of her relatives and to Manasseh's relatives. No one troubled the Israelites during Judith's lifetime or for a long time afterwards.